Ever wonder how they do it? The FBI agents you see on television? The seasoned investigators who seem to look right through a suspect? Did you know that in any high-stakes conversation, your body has already started telling the truth long before your mouth even opens? Most people believe lie detection is about finding a single, magical tell. A twitch of the eye, a bead of sweat. That's amateur hour. That's how you end up accusing an honest, nervous person and letting a cool-headed liar walk right out the door. The professionals, the people I spent my life working with and against, don't look for a single clue. They look for clusters. They look for a constellation of behaviors, a pattern that tells a story. It's the difference between seeing a single word and reading a full sentence. Let me tell you about a rookie I was mentoring, a young detective named Miller. Sharp kid, top of his class. We bring in a suspect for a simple B&E. A kid named Ricky. Miller starts the interview, and 2 minutes in, he's convinced Ricky is lying because the kid won't make eye contact. He keeps looking at the door. Miller is ready to go hard, apply pressure. I called a break and pulled him aside. I asked him, "Did you look at his intake file? The one you were supposed to read?" Miller admitted he'd only skimmed it. Ricky had a severe anxiety disorder. He never made eye contact with anyone, especially authority figures. His baseline behavior was what Miller saw as a tell. Had we relied on that single cue, we'd have been barking up the wrong tree. This is the foundational principle the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit drills into its agents: context and clusters. You cannot accurately read a person without first establishing their baseline, how they act when they calm, relaxed, and talking about something neutral, like the weather or their favorite sports team. Only then, when you introduce the stress of a critical question, can you spot the deviations from that baseline. Psychologically, it's a battle between two parts of your brain. Your neocortex, the thinking, lying part, is busy crafting the story. But your limbic system, the honest, emotional, survival-oriented part, is running the show in the background, and it leaks the truth through your body. Our job is to learn its language. So, have you ever felt that internal tug-of-war where you're trying to say one thing, but your body feels like it wants to do another? That's the feeling we're going to learn to spot in others. Before we dive into the specific clusters, we need to cement this idea of behavioral foundations. Think of it like a doctor diagnosing an illness. A good doctor doesn't just hear you have a cough and prescribe medicine. They check your temperature, listen to your lungs, ask about your history. The cough is a single symptom. The diagnosis comes from the cluster of symptoms. In interrogation, a fidgety hand is just a cough. It could mean everything, or it could mean nothing. The number one mistake people make when trying to read others is taking these cues in a vacuum. They see someone cross their arms and immediately think, defensive. But what if the room is cold? What if that's just a comfortable position for them? You've jumped to a conclusion without any supporting data. The core of the FBI's approach, and mine, is built on the concept of congruence. Do the words match the music? Is the body language in sync with what's being said? When a person is telling the truth, their verbal and nonverbal signals are typically in harmony. Their gestures will emphasize their words naturally. When a person is lying, there's often a disconnect. The brain is working overtime to manage the lie, to keep the story straight, to monitor your reaction. With all that cognitive load, it can't perfectly micromanage the body. So, you get what we call incongruence. A person might say, "Yes, I was there," while making a slight, almost imperceptible shake of the head. Or they'll tell a story about a terrifying event with a completely flat, emotionless expression. The words say one thing, the body says another. I once worked a case involving an insurance fraud claim. A man, let's call him Leo, claimed his classic car, a vehicle he supposedly cherished, was stolen. He sat across from me, telling me with tears in his eyes how much the car meant to him, how it was a family heirloom. A touching performance. But as he described his heartbreak, he gave a tiny, one-sided shoulder shrug. A full shrug can mean "I don't know." But a single-sided, abbreviated shrug often signals a lack of confidence or commitment to what's being said. He was saying, "I'm devastated," but his body was whispering, "Or am I?" That tiny piece of incongruence was the loose thread. It wasn't proof, but it told me exactly where to start pulling. We eventually found the stolen car hidden in his brother-in-law's garage. When was the last time you saw a politician give a speech? Did their grand gestures feel authentic, or did they seem a beat behind their words? Start looking for the harmony, or the lack thereof. All right, let's get to our first and most revealing cluster, the face. The human face has 43 muscles, and many of them are connected directly to the emotional centers of the brain. They can activate without your conscious permission. This is the home of micro-expressions. Fleeting, involuntary expressions that flash across the face in as little as 1/25 of a second, betraying a person's true emotion before their thinking brain can mask it. Amateurs miss them every time. Professionals train to see them. There are 3 key signals to watch for in this cluster. First, the eyebrow flash, a quick upward flick of the eyebrows. When it happens as someone is emphasizing a point and it's congruent with their statement, it's a sign of authenticity. But when it happens at an odd time, or in response to a direct question they're trying to dodge, it can signal stress or surprise that they don't want to show. Second, the micro-smile, or what psychologists often call the duping delight smile. It's a faint, often asymmetrical smirk that flashes when a person thinks they're getting away with a lie. It's the limbic brain's little thrill of victory. Finally, and one of my personal favorites, is eye blocking. This can be a full closing of the eyes for longer than a normal blink, excessive blinking, or covering the eyes with a hand. The brain does this instinctively when it sees, hears, or feels something it doesn't like. It's an attempt to literally block out the reality of the situation or to shield themselves from your perceived judgment of their lie. Let me tell you about Margaret. She was an executive assistant accused of forging her boss's signature on company checks. She was poised, confident, and had a plausible story. She looked me right in the eye and said, "I would never betray his trust." A perfect delivery. But for a fraction of a second, as the words left her mouth, I saw it. The corner of her lip pulled up and back in a sneer of pure contempt. It was gone almost instantly, replaced by a look of concerned sincerity. That micro-expression of contempt told me everything I needed to know about her true feelings toward her boss. She resented him. The lie was her way of getting back at him. Have you ever had a gut feeling that someone's smile didn't quite reach their eyes? You were likely picking up on a micro-expression, your own limbic system recognizing a crack in their facade. It's the brain's built-in lie detector. You just have to learn to listen to it. Now, for the second cluster, the hands and gestures. If the face is where emotions leak, the hands are where anxiety puts on a show. The FBI pays intense attention to what a subject's hands are doing, or perhaps more importantly, what they stop doing. When we're relaxed and telling the truth, we tend to use gestures called illustrators. We use our hands to draw pictures in the air, to add emphasis and rhythm to our words. When someone is lying, their cognitive load is high. Their brain is so busy with the lie that it often forgets to direct the hands. You'll see a sudden decrease in these natural illustrators. The person becomes physically stiffer, more contained. Conversely, you'll see an increase in what we call manipulators or pacifying behaviors. These are the repetitive, self-soothing gestures the body uses to burn off nervous energy and comfort itself under stress. Think of someone rubbing the back of their neck, stroking their leg, fidgeting with a pen, or adjusting their tie when there's no need. It's the body's way of saying, "This is stressful, I need to calm down." One of the most telling is when someone's gestures are in direct conflict with their words. They say, "I'm absolutely certain," while doing that little one-sided shoulder shrug we talked about earlier. The words say confidence. The body screams uncertainty. I had a young man in the box once, suspected of being part of a crew that was stealing cars. He was cool as a cucumber, answered every question without hesitation. But his hands. His hands were a dead giveaway. He kept them clasped tightly on the table in front of him, thumbs rubbing against each other over and over. It was a constant, rhythmic, self-soothing gesture. The real tell, however, came when I asked him directly, "Did you steal the red Ford Mustang last Tuesday?" He answered, "No, absolutely not." But as he said it, his clasped hands pulled back slightly towards his own body. It was a subconscious act of retreating, of pulling away from the lie he was telling. His mouth was moving forward, but his body was pulling back. It's a subtle dance, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. Pay attention to it in your own life. The next time you're nervous about a meeting or a difficult conversation, notice what your hands do. Are they trying to comfort you? We've covered the face and the hands. Now we move to the most honest and most overlooked part of the body, the feet and posture. This is Cluster 3. Former FBI agent and body language expert Joe Navarro calls the feet the most honest part of the body for a simple reason. We are least conscious of what they're doing. A liar can control their facial expression, they can try to control their hands, but they almost always forget about their feet. This goes back to our survival instincts. Our feet are what we use to escape danger. If a person feels trapped or uncomfortable in a conversation, their feet will often betray their desire to leave. The primary cue here is direction. When two people are engaged in an open, honest conversation, they will typically stand or sit with their feet pointed toward each other. If you ask a sensitive question and suddenly see the person shift so their feet are pointing toward the nearest exit, the door, a window, that is a huge signal. Their mind is already looking for an escape route. You can also see this in posture. Someone who is being truthful and is comfortable will often lean into the conversation. When a lie is told, or a topic they want to avoid is brought up, you'll see a sudden postural shift away from you. They might lean back, angle their torso away, or create a physical barrier by crossing their arms and legs. It's the body putting up a defensive wall. I remember an interrogation with a suspect in a robbery case. He was sitting calmly, feet flat on the floor, pointed at me. We were just building rapport, talking about neutral things. The moment I shifted the topic to the night of the robbery, his entire posture changed. He leaned back, crossed his legs tightly, and both of his feet turned and pointed directly at the interrogation room door. He didn't say a word, but his body screamed, "I want out of here." It was as clear as a confession. We knew we were on the right track. Try this at your next social gathering. Watch a group of people talking. You can often tell who is most engaged and who is looking to leave the conversation simply by looking at their feet. Whose feet are pointed into the circle and whose are pointed out. It's a fascinating and incredibly reliable indicator of a person's true intentions. Now, let's talk about the danger zone. I've given you the foundational tools the FBI uses, but tools are only as good as the person wielding them. Misusing this knowledge is not only ineffective, it's dangerous. You can destroy trust and ruin relationships by playing the amateur detective. So we need to bust some common myths and set some ethical ground rules. The biggest myth, the one I mentioned with young Miller, is eye contact. The idea that liars can't look you in the eye is garbage. In fact, experienced liars and sociopaths will often do the exact opposite. They will overcompensate with intense, unblinking eye contact to appear more sincere and to gauge whether you're buying their lie. A truthful person will often break eye contact to access their memory. It's a natural cognitive process. Unwavering eye contact can be far more suspicious than shifty eyes. Another major mistake is confirmation bias. This is the tendency to look for evidence that confirms what you already believe. If you go into a conversation thinking someone is lying, you will interpret every cough, every fidget, every glance away as proof of deception. You'll ignore all the signs of truthfulness because they don't fit your narrative. This is lazy, and it's how wrongful accusations happen. You must approach every interaction as a neutral observer collecting data. Your hypothesis about truth or deception should only come after you've observed a significant cluster of behaviors that deviate from a person's established baseline. This brings me to the most important rule. This is not a mind-reading trick. These clusters are indicators of stress, discomfort, and cognitive load. They are not definitive proof of a lie. A truthful person can show signs of stress simply because they are being accused of something they didn't do. The interrogation room is an intimidating place. Your job is not to shout, "Aha!" Your feet pointed to the door. You're lying. Your job is to see that signal, recognize it as a point of stress, and then use it to guide your questioning. You get curious. You ask more questions about that specific topic. The body language tells you where to dig, it doesn't hand you the buried treasure. Have you ever been so convinced of something that you unintentionally ignored evidence to the contrary? Being aware of your own biases is the first step toward seeing clearly. So, what do you do with all this? You have the three main behavioral clusters the FBI uses to spot deception: the facial microexpressions, the hands and gestures, and the posture and feet. You understand the foundational importance of baselines, clusters over single cues, and the concept of congruence. You also know the pitfalls, the myths to ignore, and the ethical lines not to cross. The key now is not to turn every conversation into an interrogation, but to become a more astute observer of the world around you. Your power lies in observation, not accusation. Here is your assignment, should you choose to accept it. For the next 24 hours, I want you to go on a behavioral diet. Your only goal is to observe, not to judge. When you're talking with your spouse, your boss, or the cashier at the grocery store, just watch. Watch the beautiful, complex dance of human communication. Notice how people use their hands when they're excited. Notice how their posture shifts when a conversation gets uncomfortable. Notice the fleeting expressions on their faces. Don't look for lies, look for life. This practice will sharpen your observation skills and help you build a mental library of what normal, baseline behavior looks like in different people and different situations. It will make you a better listener and a more empathetic human being. This skill is a double-edged sword. Used correctly, it can protect you from fraud, deepen your understanding of your loved ones, and help you navigate complex social situations. Used incorrectly, it can turn you into a paranoid, suspicious person who poisons relationships. The choice is yours. Always seek the truth, but do so with wisdom and grace. I'm curious, which of these three clusters do you find most fascinating? Or which have you noticed most in your own life? Let me know in the comments below. And if you found this breakdown valuable, a subscription to the channel ensures you won't miss our next session. We'll be flipping the script and talking about how FBI agents build rapport, because sometimes the best way to spot a lie is to make someone feel safe enough to tell you the truth.